Tammi is with our 2020 Impact Grantee Nourish Now, where she's been since 2019, June 2019. Prior to joining Nourish Now, Tammi spent 20 years as a marketing and sales operations executive before taking 7 years to stay at home and focus on raising her 3 girls. Like many of us during that time, Tammi was an active volunteer in her girls' school with their soccer teams. She volunteered with Girls on the Run, which many of us are very familiar with. But also during that time, she was an active volunteer with a Montgomery County food bank, where she was pursuing her drive to help with 2 issues that are very important to her: food insecurity and food waste. So as her older daughter went off to college and her younger daughters grew up, she was motivated to get back into the workforce and hoped to combine her existing expertise in data analysis and CRM systems with her passion and interest in food insecurity. Tammi was able to do exactly this at Nourish Now, whose mission is aligned with her passion. I had the pleasure of meeting Tammi at our site visit when the Health Committee conducted its last in-person site visit on March 5th. I remember it so clearly. And after that, we went all virtual. I mean, things just started shutting down right after that, as we all know. Tammi and her team at Nourish Now inspired us that day with their energy and commitment to food recovery and redistribution. Tammi will obviously explain much more about what Nourish Now does, but I wanted to share one quick story before turning it over to her that sticks with me from that day. Tammi introduced us to one of their clients who had actually gone from being a client to a volunteer with Nourish Now, Elsa, who shared her personal story with us and left most of us in tears. Tammi sat by Elsa's side as Elsa spoke, with a gentle hand on her shoulder, and conveyed a palpable sense of warmth and understanding, and gave us a true insight into the way in which Nourish Now strives to bring dignity, understanding, and a personal touch to their mission work. With that, please join me in welcoming Tammi.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Karis. That was a very nice introduction. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And I have to say, first of all, 2 of my longtime dear friends, Lauren Ackle and Bara Veda, are on the call and members of Many Hands. And so when we were applying for this grant, I was very excited. It was personal, and it meant a lot to me personally. And obviously it was the single largest grant that Nourish Now had ever received. And so the $100,000 grant was just an incredible contribution. And the timing seems as if it was really meant to be. So I can't thank you enough, all, and I'm happy to be here today to share with you what we accomplished. So I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and go to my slides. Share. There we go. Okay. Some of these have a lot of words, so bear with me. There's a lot to convey, and I know in the marketing world, that's not how you're supposed to do it, but now I'm in the nonprofit world and I'm just gonna, I like to go with it. There's a lot that we want to share. So first of all, I wanted to, on this page, show you that your logo is loud and proud and disseminated widely across the county on the stickers that we put on our family relief boxes. And so I inserted that picture there so you could see what they look like. So Nourish Now started in 2011 with our executive director and founder, Brett Myers, who I think all of you probably saw when he gave the final presentation for the grant. And it literally started out of his car. And I think he told you that story and actually got a little teary-eyed about it. So I won't go on too long about that, but he was in the food industry and the waste just really bothered him. And I think like me, um, I could never, I grew up in Colorado, Arizona, and especially in Arizona, I would always see a lot of homeless folks and whatnot, and due to the weather, and I just never could bear that people were hungry in a country like ours with so much wealth and plenty of resources. And so I think that is the essence of the folks that work at Nourish Now, that we believe passionately in what we're doing. And uniquely, a little bit different than a traditional food bank, is it was based on food recovery. So Brett took his knowledge in the food industry as well as his contacts, and slowly over time grew into the largest food recovery organization in Montgomery County. Pre-COVID, we were over 3 million pounds of food that had been recovered. You see at the bottom, over 9 million pounds has been recovered or donated at this point. So I'm going to show you the statistics from COVID, and it's quite staggering. But I wanted to just give you that little intro. Let's see if I can, is it going to, why isn't it moving? There we go. Okay, a lot of words. I'm going to highlight what I want you to know on this. First of all, is our mission normally, which I've already sort of touched on. There's Brett in the upper left. On the right is one of the summer camps where we provide all of the meals, breakfast and lunch. And really, it started when recovering of food and produce from 150 partners, restaurants, grocers, caterers, agricultural sources. We work directly with many of the large Montgomery County, especially in the bio corridor. We go and pick up their cafeteria food, and you can imagine they're actually busy here in COVID. We're still picking up the cafeteria food from some of those folks. And so when you would come into our office, you would be a part of, our office is a warehouse, and you would be a part of our family distribution program. You would walk in our front door, and in the front, there'd be a desk to receive you and 40 clients a day who would come in. We knew everything about them. They could tell us, I have an infant who's 6 months and a 5-year-old. I'm a diabetic, and my mother who lives with us has a gluten, is gluten-free, et cetera. And based on the food that we had recovered, we would put together dynamic family boxes that met their household needs. Those 40 families could come once a month. So we were not, it was not a daily drive-by situation for them. These were folks that we were sort of a one place in the puzzle for them trying to solve their food insecurity. And once a month they knew, and I can tell you, because we would hear directly from our clients, they loved our food. It would be beautiful catered food. It would often be fresh, warm food. It would be cafeteria style food, or it might be Whole Foods, their prepared meat food. And it was just very different than what they might get at another type of a food bank. And so we got to know our clients pretty well. And that was sort of the core of what we would do before that. In addition, we did Nourish Neighborhoods, which I indicate down here below. And that's just where we would take our food to folks in a group type setting where maybe they could otherwise not get to us. And so one of my great examples that I like to talk about, that one, was Montgomery College, through their student health services, had a group of veterans that were food insecure. And once a month, we would take them food. And that's just a great example of the types of individuals that are food insecure in our society, right? We also distributed to other organizations. You can see here, we worked with religious institutions, affordable housing, shelters, family support, and finally our school snack program. And at the point that we were at last year, we had about 2,000 students a week that were receiving snacks from us every day, and to fill the gap of the free and reduced meal free breakfast, where the majority of those kids, at least half of them, they estimate, would either get to school too late because of their bus or whatnot. They would miss the free breakfast. So our snacks were handed out typically in first period. So that gives you an idea of what we did before. And when we applied for our grant to Many Hands, what we were asking for at that time was another van like the one you see behind Brett, a refrigerated van to allow us to expand more of our Nourish neighborhoods. And in that context, we hosted your health committee in the back of that office side of the warehouse. We have a little table in the back. And I was going to bring up that it was March 5th as well, because it's really staggering when you think how much the world changed 1 week from that gathering. I think we had at least 15 people around a table that should not hold more than 8 at the most, all crammed together, including Elsa, our client and volunteer. And we had Lynn from the Coalition for the Homeless, and they really brought together sort of how an organization like the Coalition for the Homeless works with us, and what our bringing warm prepared meals allowed them to do, which she described that it allowed those homeless folks in some of their shelters to have a shared common meal. It wasn't in cans, it wasn't, and she talked about that, you know, food is what brings people together. And it was really inspiring. And then Elsa spoke, and I think all of us cried a little bit. And I knew Elsa might cry because she cried every time that she would sort of talk to a few people about her story. And it was really powerful. And so that was an amazing day. And then a week later, the entire world shut down. And we evolved from, you know, we really don't need the van right now. And Many Hands was very gracious to say, we need you to use the money as you see fit. So with that, I'm going to describe for you very briefly our current situation, then I'm going to get into kind of some statistics. So we now do 16 distributions across Montgomery County. I'm going to show you much more numbers about those, but in the pre-pandemic slide that you see here, our reach was about 1,000 families a month. We now have 16 distributions across the county, and we are feeding between 8,000 to 10,000 people a week. So those numbers alone give you an idea of just how incredibly our world and operating mechanism it has become. And I will describe, and I want to show you a lot of pictures so you can envision it at the end of the slides. But underlying it all, we still believe in the premise and are built on food recovery. No food should be wasted. I know that it was heartbreaking for all of us to see early in the pandemic, tomatoes being thrown away and milk being poured down a drain. And also that we provide food with dignity, and we're still always operating under that premise. So with that, I'm going to shift to give a little bit of kind of an overview, again, a lot of slides, but I feel like that's something that we had the time and that perhaps you wanted to hear. And I will preface this with, I am not, you know, I'm sharing with you because I attend a lot of meetings with the County Food Security Task Force. I've attended Maryland Hunger Solutions and Feeding America and Capillary Food Bank things, but I'm trying to just present to you some of the statistics and share with you kind of what is going on in the larger picture. And so first of all, I think what's really important is let's define food insecurity so that we all, because there's a definition for it, which is a little bit different than just someone being hungry. So the USDA defines that as a household level economic and social condition of limited or uncertain access to adequate food, or in essence, uncertainty where the next meal might come from. So food insecurity means that children can go to school with empty stomachs, or that parents and caregivers might skip their meals to feed their children. In particular, for seniors and people with disabilities who are on fixed incomes, they often have to choose between food and medicine. And I like many of the articles. I think that a lot of people saw the New York Times. They did their magazine on food insecurity back, I believe it was June was when they published that. People talked about the fact that, like, yes, I can drive a minivan, but I can't actually feed my kids. Food insecurity really, and especially as it's grown in the pandemic, these people have a roof over their head, and they have jobs, but they still are uncertain where the next meal is coming, or perhaps don't have enough food to feed their children. And so our clients that come to us pre and post, there's no, they do not have to go and provide evidence of their financial situation. If you come to us, we will give you food. And we know that sometimes that means, and I can tell you because I've been at our distribution in Bethesda, that I've had a Tesla and a Mercedes in the food line, and that being food insecure cuts across many different people, and especially now in the pandemic, people that never thought they'd be in this situation. So before the pandemic, at least 35 million people in the US were defined as being food insecure, which is a staggering number, which is projected to grow up by at least 17 million, according to Feeding America. Northwestern University, their researchers have determined that they think it will double by the time we get through the pandemic and then the economic fallout. And back in August, they were estimating it was going to be at least a year at these levels. And then no one really knows with the vaccine how quickly and how we'll get it out and whatnot. But the economy, especially for the folks that were living right on the margins and fell off very quickly, it's going to take them a long time. As we all know, so many businesses and things have closed, and it's a long dig out for a lot of people. So taking that a little bit more granular, let's talk about Maryland. Before COVID-19, 1.5 million Marylanders experienced food insecurity. And in Maryland, I think it's really important to say it is considered the most affluent state in the country with our income level. But the issue is the cost of living is very high here, right? So many of households that are defined as food insecure include workers, perhaps dual income workers, but they don't earn enough to support their family given the state's high cost of living. Feeding America estimates that close to 1 million additional Marylanders find themselves food insecure because of the long-term economic fallout. According to Maryland Hunger Solutions, there was a 400% increase in the number of SNAP applications in April as compared to March. So SNAP is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and it's been expanded now. Folks are able to order groceries online and use their SNAP benefits. And by June, Maryland had the most SNAP participants in the state's history, over 800,000, which represents about 14% of the state's population. And I can tell you that all across the food safety net, from places like Maryland Hunger Solutions, from the Montgomery County Food Council, there was a huge push to get people enrolled in SNAP. So many people, they're afraid to, they don't want to have to give that information, or they really just don't want to, it's like another step in sort of laying bare your situation. And it became just very obvious that people needed to be encouraged to do it. And you can see, I think Maryland did a very good job, and I see that number actually as a good thing as much as it is sad to see how many people that affected. I wanted to point out September, Maryland's overall unemployment rate was 7.2, which is lower than the national average of 7.9, but it's literally double from what the average was in 2019. So that's kind of an overview of kind of at the Maryland level. Let's talk about Montgomery County. Again, citing Feeding America, Montgomery County is projected to have a food insecurity rate of 13.1 which is an increase of 5.1% as compared to their 2018 number. The child food insecurity rate for 2020 is projected to be 20%. So imagine that's 1 in 5, right? And in 2018, that was 11.1. So it's gone up incredibly. Maryland Hunger Solutions, the SNAP participants increased 50,000, almost 51,000, from 50 up to 73, excuse me, as I trip over that. And that's just from February to July. And then finally, No Kid Hungry gave a really compelling presentation not too long ago that I took away, and these are pre-pandemic numbers. They worked with the Maryland Board of Education, and they did surveys in all of the schools across. And so they could tell in particular certain counties as well as at the state level, but almost 22% of Montgomery County high school students defined themselves as food insecure before the pandemic. And you can see for Montgomery County, almost 36% were Hispanic and 30% were Black. So it's very indicative, and we all know that those populations have suffered even more greatly because of the pandemic. And the middle school students reported themselves at 18.4. So it gives you an idea of what was going on even before. So those are difficult, but I felt that you were a group that maybe wanted to sort of see it from the macro down and take it down into what's going on in Montgomery County. With that, I thought I would sort of give you the good news of what you have been a huge part of and what Nourish Now has accomplished. So between mid-March and the end of October, we've served over 5 million meals. That equates to over 6 million pounds of food. 46,413 families have come through our distributions in this time, equating to 83,177 children. The senior citizen, that number 2250 looks a little low as you compare, but those are meals that we provided directly to senior centers. So that's where I can tell you for sure how many. And then we've worked in conjunction with Montgomery County, where they have been housing homeless, and we provide them 3 meals a day, working with one of our catering partners. And so we're at almost 52,000 meals going to homeless across the county. So the 16 distributions, they're up county, they're mid county, they're down county. They're at churches, they're at elementary schools, they're at apartment complexes, places that have parking lots that are good for people to queue up in, and where we know there are concentrations of folks that need it. We're working closely with Montgomery County. They have defined what they call hubs. And we work directly with 4 of those where we're providing food as well as other support to their hubs. Charities that we're directly working with during COVID. So what else? Street Outreach Network. There's a list there. I think it's just good for you to know that we're continuing to be out there and supporting other organizations that might need help. One of the things that we can provide some of the smaller organizations is that we have refrigerators and freezers, and so we can store some of that food and keep it fresh and then carry it over to folks when they do their distributions. I wanted to stop and kind of let you know what it means when I say a distribution. So I described for you how our family meal program worked before pre-COVID. Now, when we have a distribution, there's no way we can learn all that we would love to know about these families and what's going on with them. When you come to our distribution now, we would have someone with a clipboard like this, or actually what I'm really trying to get all our folks to do is use an iPad. So we stop keying the data. Work smart. We ask people their zip code. We ask them how many people in their family, and we ask them how many children. And that's it. We might hand them a flyer with some of our other distributions. Included in all of our boxes are the Montgomery County 311 helpline that has a food assistance. It also tells people how to get rent assistance. We also include in our box domestic abuse hotline cards that go in there, because that is something that is pretty profound in this distribution, in this pandemic world that we live in. So I can no longer, I don't know the names of our people, and of the 46,000 families that I know have come through, have they come through 10 times or have they come through 30 times or just once? I can't tell you that. I don't have the time. We don't have the time to talk to them that long or to take that level of information. But on April 1st, we no longer allowed clients to come into Nourish Now. So it took us about 2 weeks to really realize that, like, wait, this is real and we need to stop allowing our clients to come in. And from there, we started working, and I'm going to show you in a second some of the analysis that we did to choose some of our distribution sites, especially in the beginning. But I did want you to see and understand that it's a very different world in getting to know who are your clients and how much food are you providing to one person or not. We have these distributions and we show up and there are typically at least 50 cars in line. We can still often run out of food in the time period, and the need has not abated at all. I think folks are in a really precarious place as the federal government has not extended the benefits that they were offering, the increased unemployment, et cetera. And so when you're at these distributions, as I described earlier, I could see a Tesla and a Mercedes right alongside. And folks that never thought they'd be there, you know, they've gone, it's 8 months and their ability to pay the mortgage and whatnot is running out. So this gives you an idea of some of the analysis that we did in the beginning. And this shows you one of the first schools, Watkins Mill Elementary, where we began distributing on April 1st. And I just want to share this with you. I don't want to get into the weeds, but I think it's important, especially for you folks who provided us such a generous grant, to know that we were smart. We tried to be very smart with it, which is, if you look at the map and you look at the shading behind it, those are our clients. And all the little dots that you see, the little tiny ones, are our clients. So we knew and were uniquely sitting on top of a database that showed you exactly in Montgomery County where the food insecure were. And so rather than just do a look at just income, we could take our clients and put them on the ground. And then we looked at where MCPS had already started rolling out some of their grab and go meals. And we found places where there were gaps. And that was our first attempt at trying to find our first locations. We've been at Watkins Mill since April 1st, and we're still going there. Every week, we provide 300 family relief boxes, as well as 300 produce bags, and 900 fresh prepared meals. And you can see over here that this little 5-mile ring gave us, this is census data, and it just gives you a snapshot. There's about 1,000 of our clients there. There's 107,000 total households, what the poverty rate, child poverty, et cetera, and some of the demographics. One of our distributions are at Watkins Mill, South Lake, and we also do Washington Grove. And these are all up county. Those are all existing. And I just wanted to give you guys an idea of some of the ways that we tried to find smart places, gaps that existed between what other folks were doing. And we've worked very closely with the Food Security Task Force in the Department of Health and Human Services of Montgomery County to try so that the larger food service providers, as well as the small, that we're not tripping all over each other, that we know the need is vast, but that we're trying to, in smart ways, provide food across and do the breadth of it, effectively.